Thanks for jumping into another podcast episode brought to you by Bad Tabletop Gaming and Arrow. Your host is Armin, guest starring Theo. Welcome to Night Lords. With me here we have Theo. He loves to play Night Lords. He's played them probably for years now. And he's very excited that we have an updated rule set and some extra models and extra units and actual units coming out. So very excited to have him here. So we'll get right into it. So Night Lords. So we're not going to go through everything. We'll just kind of go through what's changed. Well, we say that, but then we end up going through everything anyway. So yeah. We'll go through the Night Lords again, because I know we did Night Lords a few weeks ago, or when I say weeks, I mean month or so, but this one's updated. So what do they have? So Talent for Murder. So this has changed, right?
So yeah, your Legion of Astartes Night Lords rules. Legion of Astartes, just like everybody can regroup, but a Talent for Murder, yeah, and it's changed, and it's changed for the better. Whereas previously it only affected infantry units, where you could get your +1 to hit and +1 to wound to trigger. Now it's opened up to anything that isn't a vehicle. So that means that you'll be able to get +1 to hit and +1 to wound against monsters, creatures, against bike units. There's no ambiguity between like jump infantry now. It's just anything that isn't a vehicle, you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound. In my opinion, a Talent for Murder was one of the better Legion of Astartes rules that was out there, and now it's just even better, where it's become one of the top ones. It doesn't work all the time. It works when you get yourself into a situation where you outnumber your opponent, and that's nice because it rewards players who will do that for themselves. So I think that's really cool, and it's really powerful.
That's right. So it's what? When you outnumber, you basically get +1 to hit or +1 to wound, which is unreal.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I mean, you have to outnumber, so it kind of forces you to have more units, but...
it makes you want to build your armies with large units. You don't take multiple small units as a Night Lords player. You take big units. You want 10 guys. You want bulky models. It really influences like how you build your lists, because it can be just so good. Then the rest of the Legion of Astartes rules have really remained unchanged. Nostrum in Blood is the same. Night Lords fall back 1 inch further than normal, and if they fail a pinning test, they can instead decide to
run away,
to flee instead of becoming pinned.
Which is pretty cool. It's a different rule, right? If you don't want to stay there, you can.
Yeah, I mean, you can get somebody to fail a charge that way, right?
Yep.
Blowing up your ride and getting pinned, you just decide to run away instead
of sit there and get charged, right?
Yeah,
maybe. Yep. Yeah, no, it's nice. If your warlord's slain, you must take a immediate morale test as if you've suffered 25% casualties. It sucks. I don't know if it's a huge deal. Like, it can be it can make a difference, but
yeah,
it's something. Right?
Generally, Legion like Astartes, like you've got leadership 8 or 9.
Yeah,
pretty much across the board. So, and sometimes in some cases better. There's still night vision, so that's unchanged. Everything in the primary detachment has night vision, so not just Legion of Astartes, but everything in the detachment. And From the Shadows, which is unchanged, which is everything has a cover save of 5+ on the first game turn, even in the open. So unchanged there. So that leads us into the wargear.
That's right. So the Nostraman Chainglaive, has this changed? +1 strength, AP 3, melee 200 rending.
Yeah, no, it has not changed. So it's available to independent characters with access to a power weapon can take this instead for the same cost.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's +1 strength, 2-handed rending, so it's better. You lose the attack, but I think the +1 strength and rending make up for it. So it's definitely worth it if you're buying a power weapon. Teleportation transponder. Any Night Lord any Night Lord Legion Terminator Squad or Night Lord Legion Command Squad equipped with Terminator armor may have Deep Strike for 15 points, which is and then any Night Lord independent character in Terminator armor can have Deep Strike for 10 points. So this is huge. Because was this in before?
This is unchanged.
Okay, unchanged. Okay.
They had access to this before.
Okay.
And it's good if you like deep striking. I myself personally am not a fan of units that deep strike because I find it to be unreliable. Although we'll get into a little bit later into like how it can be made more reliable.
It's good though because that's the difference in 30K. Well, like when it first came out, the Terminators didn't just automatically have it.
Right. In
So
40K they just had it, but now
right.
they took it away. So there's few legions. I think Imperial Fists have it.
There's a few, but it's I think it's definitely a good option to have. Right.
Yeah, more options is never a bad thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then the trophies for judgment, for 5 points, you have fear, so that hasn't changed either. And then the headsman's axe. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So this one's a new legion specific weapon. So again, same thing. Any independent character that can take a power weapon can replace it with this for 10 points. And this is a strength times 2 AP3 two-handed rending weapon. So not quite a power fist, but I don't know. I wasn't really expecting a new weapon like this, but I mean, hey, I'll take it. Why not? It's cool. Kind of opens up modeling options for your models, and it's not a bad weapon at all either. And it's not unwieldy too. So it's
That's right.
It does strike at initiative. So
yeah, I mean it's only AP3, but at times 2 strength, so like strength 8 on most things, rending, you can instantly kill some things. So that's absolutely nice. Rites of War. So did they get rid of the other Rites of War? Again, it's the same conversation. Did they actually get rid of them? Are they called the same thing? They are.
So there's because we were talking about that yesterday with the Dark Angels and their 2 original Rites of War, and they don't appear in this book. Now, one of the 2 original Night Lords Rites of War does appear in this book. The other one is missing. And that would lead me to believe that the other one, the old one, which was the Horror Cult, which is no longer in this new book, Book 9, is no longer a valid option for a Rite of War to take. So I'm not really too sure what that says about the Dark Angels ones, but I don't think that the Horror Cult Rite of War exists anymore for Night Lords players. And honestly, I didn't think it was a really great Rite of War anyways. With the way that Raptors used to be, it just kind of unlocked them as a troop choice. It felt like kind of we ran out of ideas. What do we do to give them a second Rite of War? And they just made Raptors a troop. But they also, in that Rite of War, they gave you access to Charybdis drop pods as dedicated transport options for large units of infantry. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel bad for those players who like to run that Rite of War just because they had, they wanted to run 2 or 3.
And they had a bunch of them, right?
Drop pods, yeah. So now that's not an option anymore. So that's too bad. But
well, Terror Assault. Let's go through it. So you've got Cover of Darkness. Mm-hmm. So you can impose night fighting for the duration of the first game or the first turn automatically, right?
Yeah.
And then if you so do so on the second turn you roll, and then a 3+, it's still night fighting, and then on the third turn on a 6 is night fighting. So this hasn't changed.
No, it has changed.
Oh, it has changed.
Yeah. So the way that this used to work is still the same rule: Cover of Darkness. Now, originally when it was written in, night fighting could be carried over to turn 2 on a 5 and turn 3 on a 6, and then they FAQ'd it so that it would you would have night fighting on a 2+ at the start of the game. Now they've changed it so that it's automatic.
Right, which makes sense. I mean, it's a thing for Night Lords, so it perfectly makes sense.
Yeah, and you're taking the Terror Assault Rite of War because you want to be fighting at night. It kind of sucked when you would roll a 1 for that night fight roll and not actually have night fighting in effect, because they do get some extra bonuses as well, which is +1 initiative and +1 to the run distances while there's night fighting. So that's nice because you can carry night fighting in through 3 game turns. Mm-hmm. So yeah, now it's automatic and turn 2s on a 3+. So you get a couple turns of pretty reliable night fighting, I think, and that's a nice little change.
So then the Terror Squads and Night Lord Raptor Squads must be taken as compulsory troop choices.
Yeah, so again, this has also changed because previously you only had access to Terror Squads as a compulsory troop choice. So they've opened this up and given you Raptor Squads as a compulsory troop choice as well. So every terror squad assault used to run with like 3 terror squads because you needed an extra compulsory as one of your limitations. Now you don't need to do that. You have the option to take some raptors, and that horror cult rite of war that's now gone. They've kind of worked a little bit of that.
It seems like
into this as well.
And then what the Dreadclaw drop pod and the Legion Dreadnought or Legion drop pod you can take as dedicated transports, as long as you can fit the guys inside.
Yeah. So for your tactical squads, veteran squads, and terror squads.
Yeah. So that's amazing. You basically get like a bunch of stuff put together.
This is like a few rites of war, kind of like
like it's awesome.
You
like
get
being
like
able
drop
to just
pod assault in this, like the generic drop pod assault, and plus all these other bonuses.
I'm a little surprised about the regular Legion drop pods as well, because they tend to be like very inexpensive. So that's why like usually you have to take the rite of war, like drop pod assault rite of war. So this is awesome. Like this makes like, let's look at the limitations, but this makes it really good.
It was a good rite of war originally,
before,
and when they FAQ'd it so the night fighting was a little bit more reliable, it got better. It's still a fantastic rite of war.
It seems really good to me.
Yeah. So the limitations in this is that you have to take an additional compulsory troop. So,
but it could be your cheap raptors now. Well, we'll talk about the raptors afterwards, but that could be the raptors.
Yeah. You also can only take a single heavy support troop.
Okay.
That was always the biggest restriction with this with this rite of war, because the heavy slot is so competitive with and filled with such great options that it was always hard to decide like what do you take in that slot. So only having one option kind of hurts, but I mean we just went through the Dark Angels rites of war, and I don't think that's as bad as some of theirs.
No, not at all. And then the control player, like you can't take fortifications or allies. So I mean,
it says Allied Space Marine Legion detachments.
Oh, okay,
so you can still take allies. You just can't take a Space.
So it can be
Marine
Mechanicum
Legion.
or
Auxilia,
militia, Talons of the Emperor.
I think Night Lords are mostly traitors.
Doesn't say you have to be traitor.
I guess so. Okay.
I only say that because the next Rite of War specifies certain things.
Okay.
So this one, you could be a loyalist Night Lord and take this. Which was there many loyalist Night Lords actually? Like I don't remember the stories. I'm sure there was.
The Night Lords were traitors before being traitors was cool. So
yeah, right. They were like. Basically, they're the hipsters of, right?
Yeah.
So, because as soon as it became traitors, they basically killed their own planet and basically sacrificed themselves and massacred everything. So, yeah. Okay, next one. The Swift Blade. No true leaders. So, in order to take this, you must take a minimum of 3 compulsory HQ choices and may take up to 5 HQs, regardless of whatever force org chart you use. Instead of using the regular rules for Warlord, all of the HQs and detachments are the Warlord. They do not roll for Warlord traits, but rather all gain the Crusader and Hatred Loyalist special rule. All of the HQs in this detachment must be slain to fulfill the conditions that it requires a Warlord to be removed from play as a casualty. So, this is awesome.
That's nice. I mean, you get 5 characters. Like removing that restriction. I mean, of course, you can still only take like a certain number of praetors.
Of course.
And then you're not randomly determining what your warlord trait is. You just have it.
You just get Crusader and Hatred Loyalist.
Yeah, and those are great rules.
So we know that the limitation for this one is only a traitor faction can take this. But that's not like, at first I was like, oh, well, then you will give up extra secondary points, but you don't. They fixed it right there. Yeah. So, interesting.
So we haven't even gotten into the cool part of this.
HQ choices in the detachments must be equipped with Space Marine Bike. So Legion Hussar squadrons in the detachment must be taken as compulsory troop choices, and Outrider squads may be taken as troop choices. Vehicles of the tank type may only be taken if they also have the fast type.
Yeah. So we haven't gotten to
the Hussars, but basically, to like summarize them, we will later, but they're Outrider bikes with no upgrades.
Yeah, they're in the basically. They get moved to the troop.
Yeah, and they're a troop, right? That's kind of what they are. But
so
they're bikes.
This is a bike rite of war.
Yeah. So can you give? So every one of your characters also needs to have a bike.
All of your if you take 5 HQs, they got to give them 5 bikes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then units wholly comprising of models with the Night Lord special rule add +2 to their total unit size when determining whether they outnumber an enemy, only for the purposes of a talent for murder special rule. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, +2 is like an extra model when you're on a bike, right?
Yeah, like an extra bulky model. So, I mean, it definitely helps if you take some casualties along the way, for sure. It's a cool little fluffy rule, and it helps trigger like the best part of Night Lords, really. So, limitations are that you have to take an additional compulsory troop in addition. So, you're gonna have 3 of the Hussar squadrons, which, you know, they seem to be pretty good, so not too terrible. And you have an entire bike rite of war anyway, so you probably wanted to run a lot of bikes anyways. You can't take any models that state that they must be the army's warlord. So if there are any special characters that must always be the warlord, if their Primarch isn't present, you can't run.
And you can't run the Primarch either.
And you can't run the Primarch.
That's
either.
right. So this is a very much a different rite of war, which I actually like, because like if you look at the other rites of war, this restriction doesn't exist. It's always, I mean, there's a few out there.
There's a few,
but like majority of them are you just make whatever you want. This one specifically says you can't, and I do like that. It's a very specific rite of war. It plays very different, and it's nice, and it's like it's a specific bike rite of war with lots of characters. So, do you know the like fluff behind this one? Like, what's the idea? Because like they talk about the Jet Heck clans, but from the books that I read, I don't really know. And Theo's shaking his head. He doesn't know either.
I don't really know either. I mean, a lot of Night Lords players really do enjoy using the generic bike rite of wars because they're very good and they pair really well with the Talent for Murder special rule. So there's a lot of people that have been running those generic bike rite of wars. I think maybe the designers kind of saw that and saw that there was an opportunity to make like a unique one for the Night Lords, and they've done so here.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys mention that in the comments as well? Like, I'd like to know if anybody knows where the fluff behind these Jet Heck clans is. I'm sure there's something out there. I've read the Horus Heresy books, and I don't remember them ever talking about bikes. But, I mean, it would be nice to know. If you can reference something too, that would be great, because then I'll go through and look it up, because I'm actually really interested. I don't play Night Lords personally, but they're a really cool legion that I mean, I would have loved to play, because they're definitely like one of those legions that, you know, who doesn't want like flayed skin everywhere, all over your armor? I mean, yeah. Cross of Bone is the next one.
Yeah.
So, Aristocracy of Ruin.
This is the rite of war that they teased a couple months back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, non-compulsory HQ choices included as part of this detachment. The maximum number of lead choices available as part of this four-sort chart is increased by 1. So for every non-compulsory HQ choice included in this army. So,
so you've got your Praetor that's going to unlock your rite of war, and then you've got your 2 other HQ choices. And as long as you buy them, you'll unlock 1 more elite slot each. And if the generic force organization chart for Age of Darkness games has 4 elite slots, so you can get up to 6 elites.
I don't know if that's necessary. Only because
elites are pretty expensive already.
They are. So. It seems like, you know, okay, so you're gonna basically your entire army is gonna be elites if you can even pay for it. In a standard 25 to 3,000 point game. But
I mean, it might be great for a bigger game.
Yeah, but it's nice. It's nice. As long as models from this detachment with the independent character special rule is either alone or in a unit with no other independent character, it gains +1 attack. So the independent characters gain +1 attack, basically, unless you're putting a bunch of independent characters in the same unit.
In like a big Death Star.
Yeah,
but
which
in this Rite of War you would design it so that you're not doing that. So, and that's nice, because I mean you can build Praetors that have like 7, 8 attacks on the charge. You know. Yeah.
And then the Selected Warlord special objective is worth an additional 1 victory point for the players that has selected this Rite of War if the enemy warlord's final wound is removed by a friendly model with the independent character special rule.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and it doesn't specify in combat too, so you could
pop shoot him, you could
bolt pistol,
whatever, but you have to do that wound. So if you're shooting at him, roll that wound separately. Yeah. You know, you roll it last. I don't know how that works, right? But so it's cool. Limitations: you have to take an additional compulsory choice, compulsory troop choice. You cannot take, again, Conrad Conrad Kurz is a Lord of War choice. So you can have other Lord of War choices, but you can't have the Primarch. Again.
Yeah.
And then the Rampant Blade. Any unit from this detachment that makes a consolidation move must move full distance allowed toward its nearest enemy within line of sight. If there are no enemy units within line of sight, then you have to move toward your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's a little different.
So that's that used to be in the Horror Cult Rite of War as well. That again no longer exists. And it's, it kind of sucks. Like, again, it's not as bad as some of the Dark Angels ones that we were just talking about, but
you have to consolidate toward.
But it takes control of your unit away from you, and that it could put you into an unfavorable position for next turns, right?
Yeah, especially since Night Lords with outnumbering and all the other rules can very well wipe out units on the turn they charge.
Yeah,
and then you might open yourself up to a counter charge from a unit that's much stronger. But
absolutely. So the next one that we've got here is the Bloodied Gauntlet. This is another new one. So the Bloodied Gauntlet is all compulsory choices in this detachment must begin the game deployed on the table or enter play on the first game turn. These units gain Zealot, and if destroyed, do not grant the opposing player any victory points regardless of the mission being used. Through death, victory is if the game ends as a draw, or with the player that has chosen this Rite of War as the loser, then that player gains plus D3 victory points if all their compulsory choices have been destroyed. So your compulsory choices, and it says all compulsory choices, so your Praetor and two troops. Units.
Yep.
If they all die, and I as the Night Lord player am losing the game, I get plus D3.
That's right. So it's kind of like you gain an extra D3 victory points.
As long as they die.
Because if you're winning, as long as they die, because if you're winning, who cares about the extra victory points? You've already won.
Yeah.
But if you're tying or losing, then you get the extra victory points. So really...
Yeah. So you're really going to commit those units your opponent.
So you might as well add those...
Yeah,
and you might as well add those points all the time anyways.
Yeah.
Again, because it's not like they're going to make... that mathematically doesn't make a difference. So... But it's a different rule. You want to make sure that those units are in combat and dying. Right?
Yeah, basically. You want to get them stuck in. You want to probably get some use out of them. They have Zealot, so...
Well, they're not going to run away, right? So he's going to have to kill you.
They're going to be fearless, yeah.
So
the other thing is that units from the detachment entering play from reserve after game turn 3 gain the outflank special rule.
So turn 4 and on.
Yeah, so this is kind of strange to me. Because normally if you had a unit in reserve and it's got outflank, you would declare that it's outflanking. But you only, with the wording of this, you only gain outflank after game turn 3, which means that game turn 4, when you would automatically come on the table from reserves, you would then have outflank.
That's right.
And you would also have to fail a couple turns worth of reserve rolls to gain this rule. So it just kind of seems a little strange.
I guess I can see what the idea behind it is if, for example, you have the zealot unit with the zealot rule, and they're not... Let's say you put them in reserve and they don't come in till 4th turn. Well, there's a good chance that they're not going to do anything. There's a good chance they're going to sit back and not really get into combat. Well, this outflank allows you to basically get up there, up close and personal to the enemy, allowing these units to actually do what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
So that's probably what the intention was. I mean, it's a good benefit. It definitely doesn't hurt you. If you don't come in, you get to be right there, right? So it's like one of those things, maybe 3rd turn you're hoping you fail, because in 4th turn you can literally be right there, as opposed to coming on from your own board edge. So it's a good rule. I think it's a good rule. Kind of fits with what they're saying earlier, so yeah.
So detachments using the Rite of War must take an additional 2 compulsory elite choices.
So now we're talking about, so you have an HQ, 2 troops, and 2 elites that have to die.
Yeah.
So now it's getting a little bit harder to lose all your units if you're winning.
And these they have to be infantry units and can't be equipped with Terminator armor of any kind.
Right. So veterans?
Yeah, veterans or terror squads. They're elites as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So compulsory units choices in this detachment may not hold or contest objectives of any kind and never count as scoring units. So no compulsory choice may select a dedicated transport, and a compulsory HQ choice may not be selected as the army's warlord. So
you have to have 2 warlord.
Well, you'd have to have 2 characters.
2 characters.
You'd need a second one to be your warlord.
And all non-compulsory choices must begin the game in reserve. Oh, so you can't even put your compulsory choice in reserve. You have to start on the board.
Your compulsory choices
must start on the board.
Can start on the board.
So then, I guess my reasoning behind the rule doesn't really make sense, but it still makes sense because if you hold off too long, then at least you can get in. So this is interesting.
This is a really aggressive rite of war.
It's a really tough one because if you're playing objectives, you can't score. So half the games that you're going to play, you probably will be losing.
Yeah.
Because...
And you're also foot slogging with this army. That's right. Because you can't
have dedicated transports. So you definitely want to, die with these models.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still put them in transports. It doesn't say you can't. Right? You can still buy a Dreadclaw.
I'm thinking you might want to take, your Praetor with the jump pack and a couple assault squads because they've got that movement so they can get across the table.
But they're not compulsory,
though. They would be compulsory troop choices.
Oh, assault squads, yeah. I thought you were talking about terrors. Raptor
and then your
squads.
Your terror squads is your elites because they have infiltrate, so they can
they can get up close. Yeah. That
might be like a good base to start from with the list building, and then whatever you can afford after that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. It's definitely different. It's nice. It's different than a lot of the other same rites of war. I think that seems to be the theme of this book, is they're trying something new. They're giving us more rites of war that aren't just the same.
Yeah, and on a lot of them too. I wasn't expecting to have 3 new rites of war and 4 in total now.
Yeah, so that's really nice.
Yeah, right? So it's cool and kind of makes you want to really anticipate what's coming up in the next book.
That's right. Well, I'm kind of hoping
legions in there and what rites of war are they going to get.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that this is a prelude to what they're going to do in the future because, every army having 2 rites of war is nice, but having 4 is nicer. Yeah. Having more generic ones would also be good. I
feel like there's a good bunch of
generic
generic
ones. But it's always nice to have more, but more generic ones that fit to how the army plays more. Just out of the top of my head, I think of my Alpha Legion, right? They have the Headhunter one, which isn't that great, and then they have the Coils of the Hydra, which again is good, but not, I feel like it's not amazing, right? So I would like to see more
options, Legion specific ones.
Even if the limitations are more bigger, I still like to see it, right?
Like what we said, I kind of like there's a little bit of give and take in, you get some cool stuff with your rite of war, but there's also some pretty heavy restrictions that you have to abide by as well if you want those perks. So I kind of like that design philosophy. Yeah, there's definitely some examples out there where there's just not really a lot of limitations and you just get all this cool stuff for basically nothing but
1,000 Suns.
Yeah. But
if you guys didn't hear that, I coughed 1,000 Suns, just saying.
So I guess moving on to
the Terror Squads. Okay, so changes here.
Yeah, so there's changes for Terror Squads. They're still the same awesome veteran unit.
2 attacks, 2 close combat weapons.
2 close combat weapons. Same base points cost for 5 models, but your additional models are now getting a discount. Instead of being 15 points per model, they're now 12 points per model. So that's a 3 point per model discount. And personally myself, I ran 10-man squads. So for me, this is going to net 15-point discount.
That's right.
So and then they become a lot more comparable in points to regular veterans. So I think a 10-man veteran squad is about 160 points. With bare bones, no equipment, and they're pretty much the same, except your terror squads get fear, infiltrate, preferred enemy infantry, and precision strike instead of a
mutable tactic
or whatever it is.
They're really good. I know neither Theo and I were in the previous podcast that talked about Night Lords, so specifically talking about these terror squads, they're awesome.
Terror squads are fantastic. They were fantastic before.
That's right.
Before this points discount.
So any model now can take a bolt. May also take one of the following options. Bolt gun for free. Yeah. So you would always take that.
So the bolt guns used to cost you 2 points per model.
So now they're free, which is awesome because they basically turned them into veterans, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you could also take the chain glaives or chain blades, sorry, or heavy chain blade. Oh, that's a different weapon. That's not what I was thinking of. That's not your special weapon.
No, the heavy chain blade is just the +1 or two strength chain sword.
I want to say +2, I'm thinking, but
Maybe.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't matter.
It's like AP4.
Sorry, Volca Charger for 5 points, which is really good.
Unchanged.
Rotor Cannon, meh. And then Flamer, one model in the unit only.
Now the rotor cannon's gotten cheaper.
But they're not as good. Personally, like, I don't know if we want to get into it much, but I find the Strength 3 really hurts.
Yeah, I agree.
Shitty AP. Like, you might as well get a Volkite. Yeah.
So, one other big change here. Entire squad can take Melta Bombs now.
Well, that is the change.
Plus 5 points per model.
Per each. So that's pretty expensive.
Yeah, it can get pretty expensive when you got a big squad, but they didn't have access to that before at all.
That's right.
So now
because veterans are 25 points for the unit. No matter
so
how many models you have, this is 5 points a model. So if you have 10 models, it's going to be 50 points. So,
but now it's an option, and now they can be very scary for
vehicles. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the headsman has all of the same options for swapping out his weapons as he did before.
Artificer armor.
And
then dedicated transports that can have a Rhino and a Dreadclaw drop pod. And Rhino's new, right?
And the Rhino's new, so they didn't have access to Rhinos before. They just had access to the Dreadclaws, which was always cool. But, now your specialist infiltrating unit can infiltrate in their dedicated transport. So.
That's right. So that's good. So I think they're definitely a win. Like, you run through squads if you can. Yep.
Absolutely. It just helps make Terror Assault Rite of War, which was already good, better.
Yeah.
Better than it was.
Terminator Elite, so
Contecar.
So these are awesome. These are new. Awesome models. A great... I'm so happy. I always am happy when I see Alpha Legion get a new unit. It's so nice to see. So I'm very excited about this one too.
Yeah, Alpha Legion.
Weapon skill 5, 2 attack space, of course, the Terminators. But your Dissident, which is the Sergeant, he gets 2 wounds and an extra attack. So he's 3 attack space, which is awesome. They come with Terminator armor, so it doesn't specify. So I guess you get to choose what model Terminator armor you want.
Yeah, so I guess the actual models are modeled with Tartaros, but you would have the opportunity to model your own Cataphracta if you wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tartaros makes sense for the, like...
Heavy Flamers as a stock weapon option.
Is amazing.
Yeah, so it's nice to have Wall of Fire when you're firing Overwatch. So, but I mean, there's still something to be said for a 4+ invulnerable save.
That's right. And then they get a Chain Blade, which is different. It's a new weapon, and then Trophies of Judgment. So Trophies of Judgment are fear.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So the Chain Blade is what it's Strength is user, AP3, melee, rending. So,
this is just a not two-handed version of the Chain Glaive.
Yeah, it's a rending power sword.
Yeah, so better than a power sword that, normal Terminators, Legion Terminators come with a power sword stock, so it's just better.
So they do have Implacable Advance. Chosen Warriors is always good. Lords of the Night, which does what?
So Lords of the Night is a single Contecar Terminator Elite, numbering no more than 10 models. Can be taken as a compulsory HQ choice in an army which includes neither Sevatar nor Conrad. So an army which contains Sevatar, a Terminator Elite unit may be chosen instead of a command squad as a bodyguard, and takes up a single HQ choice with him. But they don't have to be deployed with him and can be separate for the game. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of like the Death Guard. The Death Guard Terminators that you can take as an elite choice, right?
Yep. So that's.
Sorry, as an HQ choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nice. It gives you the nice option to like not run a character and just run them if you want. Just to kind of go over, you can take a Phobos or Dreadclaw as a dedicated transport, depending on if you have 5 models or less. You can have an additional 10 models, and this is a big thing here. So originally with 5 guys, they're 46 points a model.
Yeah. And
then the other additional 10, so you can have 15 models, are 36 points a model, which is really cheap.
Price.
That's a good, that's a cheap model.
For how good they are, Weapon Skill 5.
Weapon Skill 5, yeah. That's cheaper than, that's a Legion Terminator is 35 points.
Yeah.
Right? So they're 30.
This guy's got a better weapon skill and a heavy flamer.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really, and fear.
Yeah.
Right? And their weapon's better. It's rending, right? So
I'm really happy with the price point
that's
for
right.
these guys.
It's really good. Yeah. You can take teleportation transponders again, like we talked about earlier, for 2 points a model. So you have that option to choose it if you want.
Yeah, the more you have, the more expensive it's going to be. But
so the one weapon that we all saw a picture of and we were all speculating as to what it was, I was thinking it was a Volkite Cavalier or Culverin. But you can have like 1 in every 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a Cavator, 10 points each. And it's really weird. It's Strength 6, AP 5, Heavy 4 to flag rate. But it's only a 10-inch range.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. Like, I get it with the Heavy Flamer being close range, so they're trying to make this one close range too. But I don't know. It's
when
for
they
10 points, it's pretty pricey.
When they teased the profile for these guys and showed that they were weapon skill 5, I kind of thought, I feel like these guys are going to have like a real identity crisis. It seems like with weapon skill 5, you'd want them to be a close combat Terminator unit, but they've got this Volkite, and if that thing's at, 45-inch range, they're like a destroyer, like a heavy destroyer Terminator unit that wants to shoot things down. So it kind of like has that identity crisis. Now that we see that it's 10-inch range, it's obviously very short, so they're going to be an aggressive type unit where you're going to have to get up into your opponent's face and to utilize the weapon to its fullest extent. But I think that 10 inches is a bit too short.
It's a little short, yeah, absolutely.
It could have done to be... Volkites have weird ranges, Like, maybe it could have been 21 inches or something like that. I don't know. Just a little bit longer so that, they didn't just have to get down maybe with a risky teleportation to try and get him within 10 inches and shoot these weapons. So
the other thing, too, is, like, with the points that it is, and I'm just thinking, like, the models that you're going to get, I just wonder, because the models aren't out yet, I just wonder if you're going to get, like, one of each weapon, and then if you actually want a full squad, if you're actually going to have to figure something out, either model differently or buy extra models or something like that. I don't really know how they're going to do that.
I think you're going to get 2 for 5.
2 for each 5 is like normal?
Is what you're going to get in the models. Whether or not you want to pay the points to have that weapon, I'm not sure. It like 10 points each. If it was longer range, I'd say no problem. The really short range is kind of what turns me off of it.
Yeah.
I might, you get an inch and a half of range over your heavy flamers.
Yeah.
I might just
stick with the heavy flamers. Yeah, for the cheapness, And then the big one here, the really nice one is the Dissident. So the Sergeant can exchange his weapon for the Eschaton?
Yeah.
Power Claw for 15 points.
Yeah.
So this thing's really cool. It's a Power Fist, right? Unwieldy melee times 2 strength AP 2 with shred.
Yeah.
So it kind of has a lightning claw and Power Fist combined rules for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like really...
You definitely pay for it. Like 15 points is expensive.
Iconic Night Lord.
Yeah.
Type of weapon.
Yeah. So it's really cool. I really like that.
The great thing about this is, again, these guys, you can see it with their rules, their equipment, everything, that they're meant to get into close combat. Like, they're a combat unit. But with an AP3 rending weapon, it makes that charge into anything with like 8 armor 2 plus pretty scary.
Yeah.
Because you never know if you're just not going to roll good and get any rends, and all your attacks are going to bounce off their armor. Well, this helps mitigate that a little bit in that you've got some reliable AP2, and he's got 3 attacks. He'll have 4 attacks on the charge. If you're outnumbering, these guys are bulky because they're Terminators, and you can take a lot of them. You outnumber your enemy, you're going to have pretty reliable hit rolls with weapon skill 5. You're going to have really reliable wounding rolls with like strength times 2 and shred. So you've got some reliable AP2 that you can throw down at a unit and make that prospect of charging something like another Terminator unit a lot less scary.
But even with like the regular weapons, like as you said, like let's say you do charge a Legion Terminator squad, point for point, you're going to have more models than they do. So you charge in, you're hitting on 3s, but wait, no, you're hitting on 2s. You're not wounding on 4s, as the weapon says you're wounding on 3s, rending, and you're going to have a lot of attacks. So if you make that charge, and you know, you're going to get a bunch of 6s, they're going to fail a couple of saves, like, and then once it gets to initiative 1, you know, when they're hitting back with, you know, if they're hitting back with power swords, who cares? If they're hitting back with power fists, then yeah, they could hurt you, but then so could your dissident hurt them. So it's not a bad squad. I don't know if it's like really meant for elite hunting. In that said, though, I don't know how many times I would upgrade it to 15 points. Or 15 models, sorry, unless you're teleporting them, maybe.
No. You might buy a few extra models just to give yourself a
little bit of a buffer.
Those numbers for your talent for murder.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Eschaton power class is pretty much an auto include.
I think so too. Like it's the only power fist in the squad, and it's also shred, right?
You know, it definitely needs to be said that Night Lords are a legion that are very, very good at dealing with like infantry, but not heavy infantry.
That's right.
These guys kind of are a step in that direction where they can do a lot better against that type of like heavy infantry, Terminator, Death Star type unit. Mm-hmm. There's definitely units that you're going to want to avoid. You know, anything with like multi wounds, 4+ or 3+ invulnerable saves, probably not a good.
Yeah, I mean everybody should avoid those. So.
Yeah. All right, so we have the Night Raptors next. I might have to say there's some big changes here for the Night Raptors. I might have to say it's kind of a toss-up for me whether this is my favorite change or maybe we'll get to some more changes that are coming later, but this one might be my favorite. It's kind of a toss-up. So first off to start, Night Raptors now have 2 attacks apiece on their profile, up from 1 each, and the Huntsmaster is up from 2 to 3. So that in itself is just a massive, massive change. You always ran into issues with them in subsequent rounds of combat, especially considering that the entire unit had access to Noshman Chainglaives, which is a 2-handed weapon. Like not really having a lot of attacks. 1 attack per model on your elite close combat jump unit kind of. It stung, it wasn't the greatest. So
I mean, Weapon Skill 5 is awesome because again, it gives you that opportunity to be hitting on 2s.
Yeah. If
you outnumber the enemy, so that's like a real like. If I look at all the units, like it seems like it's very much a theme.
Yeah, and
right?
And again, these guys are assault Marines, so they're bulky as well. So getting those outnumbers is a little bit easier even.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably some of my favorite changes coming up here for Night Raptors.
So they have Raptor Strike and Bloody Murder as special rules.
Yeah, and those are 2 new rules.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they got rid of.
They got rid of the old rule, which was called Onslaught. And Onslaught used to give them plus D3 attacks when you charged instead of just 1. But I can tell you from experience that I don't know if I ever actually rolled more than 1 attack on the charge for them. So I didn't really like that rule. And
so Bloody Murder and Raptor Strike. So I'll go over my Raptor Strike here. A model with a special rule may use a jump pack in both movement and assault phase. So this is like unreal.
Yeah, now you don't have to make that difficult decision.
So you don't have to make it a decision, which the decision usually always used to be you want to use it in the movement phase because it gives you that extra guaranteed 6 inches so that you can make it into combat. Now, not only do you not have to care because you can still move 12, charge 2d6, reroll, and get a Hammer of Wrath attack when you actually charge.
Yeah.
Or Hammer of Wrath hit, not even an attack, a hit.
Yeah.
Like that's unreal. Like that's awesome. That's a really, really good rule.
I'm very happy with that change. Yeah. The next one's Bloody Murder. So this one's kind of cool. It's after all normal attacks by the squad have been resolved, you count the number of enemy models removed as casualties as a result of those attacks and immediately resolve a number of automatic wounds with AP dash equal to the number of casualties caused on any one unit that is locked in combat with. So if you're in combat with multiple units, you just pick one unit for the whole total of wounds that you caused to affect them.
So this is really good.
So
like it's extra. You don't have to hit. It's not automatic hits. It's just automatic wounds. And the guy just has to take armor saves. So it could be, if it's a tactical Marine squad, it could be 4 or 5 extra wounds that you're taking, or 6.
Yeah.
Right? So
and they're automatic wounds. So I was going to say, it's kind of like Volkite Deflagrate
But even
in combat,
it's better though.
But it's better because you don't even have to make that extra wound roll.
First 5 are 150 points, so that's 30 points a model.
So that's the same base points cost that they used to be, but they've gone down in cost for your additional models.
15 points, which is what, the price of a regular assault marine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, not 100% sure, but that either way, well, maybe not. Maybe they're a little cheaper, but still, it's great. They have 2 attacks each, weapon skill 5, like awesome jump packs. Like that's really, really good point cost.
Yeah.
Exchange your chainsword or combat blade with either a power weapon or the chain glaive for 5 points or a single lightning claw for 10. So I mean, this is regular pricing usually, but any model can have it, so that's really nice.
So it's any model in the squad. These have all gone down 5 points per model.
They have?
Yeah,
okay.
5 points a piece, you know.
So it's actually worth now expending some points and buying them because, like, the chain glaive, okay, so you lose the extra attack, but you gain strength and rending.
Yeah, and AP3, right? So that was always the stick, was that it was kind of expensive to equip an entire unit with these things, so you probably wouldn't put an entire unit with these things. And then if you did, they also lost that attack because of the two-handed weapon. So now it's much more affordable to give your guys like these iconic Night Lords Legion specific
and I mean,
weapons.
you don't have to outfit all of them either. You can leave 5 with not put those 5 in the front, and as you lose models, those 5 die, you know, and then you kind of, when you actually get into combat with them, because you do expect to lose a bunch, once you get into combat with them, you actually have those nice weapons sitting behind you. So
yeah, I think overall my Night Lords Raptors unit makeup probably won't change. I have 5 and 5. I'll probably leave it that way.
You don't think you would go up to like 10 or 15?
No, I'd probably keep them probably about 10 models and with 5 chain glaives.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah. But that's nice though.
But you know, you get a nice discount over that over how expensive they used to be. So
And then for every 5 models, you can get an extra weapon. So, you know, flamer, melta gun, plasma pistol, or hand flamer. Any model may exchange both their weapons for a pair of lightning claws. So that's nice.
Yeah.
It's 20 points. It's pretty pricey. But
it is, yeah.
But I mean, it's good. I don't know if it's actually that worth it because the chain glaive will give you +1 strength. And with your special rule, if you outnumber, now you're winning on 2s.
Yeah.
Do you need, winning
Shred?
on 4s shred? No, because 2s are better.
Yeah.
So really, I feel like the lightning claws are something that, it's cool, but I don't think I'll see many. Now the Huntsmaster can exchange your bolt pistol for one of the following. So you've got your hand flamer, plasma pistol, or Volkite Serpenta. I mean, they're not bad, but this isn't a shooting unit. Personally, the way I see it, they're not a shooting unit. You're just gonna. I like to see that the plasma pistols have gone down in price. It seems like because they used to be 15, and I know I say that they used to be 15. I think they used to be 15. Maybe they haven't, but you can exchange. You can get the Headsman's Axe.
Yeah, so normally only available to independent characters, but it is available to your Night Raptor Huntmaster.
That's right. So this is the ×2 strength AP3,
Rending.
200 rending, and again, it's not unwieldy, so you've got strength 8. So I'd probably pay the 5 points for that.
For 5 points, yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, because it's better than a chain glaive. So why get a chain glaive instead, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely grab that. And then the Huntsmaster can get Melta Bombs, Artificer Armor, or Cause Fear. I think you'd probably grab all of those.
Yeah, probably.
Melta Bombs, maybe not, but you want to cause fear. Why wouldn't you?
They didn't used to have access to Trophies of Judgment, so it's nice that they now do. I mean, it didn't really make sense that they didn't. So
yeah, you kind of want that. You want Artificer Armor for him. With 3 attacks base, makes him really good.
Yeah, right? And with the points discounts that you get for extra models and the weapons and stuff, you can afford all of that without really having to bat an eye.
Yeah, or change your army at all. So yeah.
So.
Okay, Nakrithol.
Yeah, so this is the new HQ unit that we get in this book. 185 points. So not terrible. Regular Praetor, a souped up Praetor level points, weapon skill 6, 3 wounds only, initiative 6, 4 attacks, and 2+ armor save. So this is the first character that the Night Lords have gotten that has a 2+ armor save.
Other than Conrad.
Other than Conrad.
That's right.
Yeah. So he's got Artificer armor. He only has a refractor field. So he's only got a 5+ invulnerable save. Volkite Serpenta. He's got a Nostraman Flay Whip. He has the Devil's Due, and he has Trophies of Judgment, so he causes fear. He's a Praetor, so he's Master of the Legion. He has counterattack, and he has a special rule called Valor's Shadow.
So counterattack is awesome because it transfers to whatever unit he's with. Mm-hmm. So that's a great rule to have. Just want to interrupt this. We're drinking a couple beers here because it's Friday. So what are you drinking here? You're drinking a Big Rock. You guys can't see these. You know what? Maybe you can. I'll just record him here. Okay. So this is what we're having. So Theo is drinking the. This is not sponsored in any way by these beers or beer companies. Big Rock Lagered Ale, and then I have this Last Best Clairvoyant Yuzu IPA. It's really good. So not really brought to you by it all, but just wanted to interrupt to mention that good beers. Okay, going back, Valor's Shadow. So this character Nakrithol, he may not be targeted by means of precision strike or precision shot. In addition, when he's reduced to 0 wounds, so the controlling player, so he rolls a d6. If you get 5+, you still remove him from play, but he does not count as destroyed for the purposes of scoring victory points or achieving objectives. Once removed, he may not re-enter play. So it's a neat rule. Like, can he be your warlord? I'm assuming he can.
Yeah, he could be.
So, I mean, you would not get the point for killing a unit if that's a thing, and then you wouldn't get a point for the warlord. Yeah. So it's a really nice rule. It's different, right? It's like he doesn't actually die; he just disappears.
Slips back into the shadows.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Flay Whip. So this is one of his weapons.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is his main weapon. So it's strength user AP 4. It's rending. It has some special rules, Electrocharge, Web of Steel, and it's also a specialist weapon.
So you can't get an extra attack?
So you don't get an extra attack.
But he has 4, and he's 6 initiative too, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's as high as some Primarchs.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty quick. So the Electrocharge is that any model that suffers an unsaved wound from this weapon reduces its initiative until 1 until the end of its controlling player's next turn. I like how they specify that it's the controlling player's next turn and not just game turn.
Yeah. Yep.
So then Web of Steel is a model equipped with a melee weapon with this special rule. May choose to forfeit all of its normal attacks in order to make a single attack against each enemy unit, each enemy model from a unit that is locked in combat and within 2 inches of the wielder, using the Flay Whip's profile. If this option is used, the Electrocharge special rule cannot trigger from unsaved wounds. So it's nice that it's like the 2 inches. It's not just models in base
so
contact.
You could literally get 6-7 attacks if you have a tactical squad that piles in.
Yeah. You can
easily
get tons of attacks if you've got your enemy clumped up and close to you.
So. I do want to go back to that Electrocharge rule. So this rule suffers from the same issue that the other rules that we talked about do, where it says the controlling player's next turn, right? So if technically you go first and I'm the controlling player of Nakrithol, I would get 2 rounds of you being initiative 1, right? No, sorry, the other way around. But either way, there's a potential that you would only have initiative 1 round, or there's the potential that you would have initiative 1 2 rounds, right? So I don't think it matters when they specify it. It seems like now they're saying controlling players next turn or game turn. In the end, I feel like it should either be 1 turn or 2 turns always, where this could be either way. So it doesn't quite make sense to me personally, but anyways.
Right. So then the Devil's Due. So this is also another close combat weapon for Nakrithol. And this one has +2 strength, AP 2. It's unwieldy. Has the Devil's Due special rule, which is also the name of the weapon. It's got Murderous Strike, and it's Master Crafted. So the Devil's Due special rule is that if an enemy model in base contact with Nakrithol has its initiative reduced by the effects of any other weapon or special rule, then this model may make a single additional attack against the enemy model. This additional attack is made immediately before the enemy model would attack and use its profile for the Devil's Due as shown above. So essentially, if he hits you with his whip and causes a wound and slows you down, he brings out his hatchet and gets an attack that's got Murderous Strike. Potentially,
an extra attack.
Yeah, potentially an AP2, potentially instant death attack.
So what they're saying is you should be using both with him.
Well,
can you do that?
I don't think that you can use the Devil's Due unless you start causing wounds with the Flay Whip.
Why not? You can still have +2 strength AP2. Unwieldy?
I don't think so. No, you got to. It's all in that special rule. I mean, unless I'm interpreting it incorrectly, where you can still use the Devil's Due normally, or you get an additional attack with it if he's caused a wound from the whip.
Devil's Due? So we were talking about this. I can't really figure out whether it's a weapon in itself or if you can only use it if the Flay Whip reduces the initiative down. Because normal weapons you can just use normally, right? And this looks like a normal weapon, but then in the fluff portion of it, which isn't technically a rule, but it says that he keeps it hidden from his opponent until the moment of the target's weakness and then striking a fatal blow from surprise. And then his special rule basically says this additional attack is made before the enemy model would attack and uses the profile for the Devil's Due above. So if an enemy model in base contact with this model has his initiative value reduced, then this model may make special attack with the above. So I think you're right. I think you can only choose to use this weapon if the enemy's initiative is reduced by effects other than other effects, I guess. So
yeah, it's kind of too bad because I mean it'd be a great weapon.
It is a really nice weapon. Yeah. But I think that's kind of the intention, and the wording's kind of weird. But I think you're right between like the fluff that talks about it and then the rules and then the description here. It seems like that's the intention. You use your Flay Whip, and then if you're successful in doing this, you basically get an extra attack with the Devil's Due. So yeah.
So
Sevatar.
Yeah. So this is
sorry to like interrupt anything, but this was a big contention. We got a lot of comments on this from the previous look at the Night Lords.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can do this again and see if we can get a general agreement on how good Sevatar is with Theo and I talking about it here.
Okay.
So let's do that.
Okay, so there's a lot of changes to Sevatar. Well, there's not a lot of changes. There's changes to Sevatar.
But let's just go through him as a character, right? So he's 175 points,
yeah,
which is good. It's a really low number compared to some of the other
again,
characters.
He's like the souped up Praetor type points.
Only 3 attacks, but 6 initiative is good. 7 weapon skill is good.
4 attacks, 3 wounds.
What did I say?
3.
Right, 3 wounds. I meant 4 attacks. Yeah. 3 plus save, so this was kind of his big thing that he sucked because...
Well, and I don't agree with that because if you read through the rest of his rules and stuff, he's meant to like get into challenges and like kill stuff, and if you're fighting in challenges with other scary characters, they're probably cutting through your 2+ armor save anyways. So
very true.
3+ armor save, 2+ armor save, meh.
Okay, that's fair. Iron Halo, Mastercrafted Chainglaive, Bolt Pistol, Trophies of Judgment. So, I mean, he doesn't get the extra attack because of the Bolt Pistol and the Chainglaive's two-handed.
Yeah.
Trophies of Judgment, so he does cause fear.
Yeah.
Special rules, so Master of the Legion he has, Dirty Fighter, Repressed Psyker, all these other beautiful rules. If he's a Warlord, he automatically takes the Master of Ambush, which does what?
So they FAQ'd it, and it doesn't look like they have gone through that here. Essentially, he gets the book power where himself and 3 infantry units gain infiltrate, and his master of the ambush was they got acute senses, so they got to reroll that outflank roll. So the changes.
Yep.
Is that now they've provided Savitar with an option. It says to represent Savitar when he assumes control of the Night Lords in the wake of the Battle of Sheol, his power armor and mastercrafted Nosman Chainglaive may both be exchanged for the following for 35 points. So he goes up to 210.
Yeah.
He gets Artificer armor and Knight's Whisper. Knight's Whisper. And Knight's Whisper is a Strength +1 AP 2 melee 2-handed duelist edge mastercrafted. So it is
an AP2 weapon.
Yeah.
Which is a huge change because like the Chainglaive was always AP3 rending.
Right.
Right. So now he actually has a flat out AP2 weapon, which is awesome. Duelist edge.
Yeah. So essentially, in the description of this, it's still a Chainglaive. It's just an AP2 Chainglaive. It doesn't have rending anymore. It's still 2-handed. It's still mastercrafted. You get Duelist Edge, which is +1 initiative bonus in a challenge. So, I mean, he's initiative 6. He goes up to initiative 7. If you're running Terror Assault, you get +1 initiative during night fighting. He could be at initiative 8.
And that's more than
crazy.
The majority of
that's
like
crazy.
Primarchs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now this is the best thing about Savitar. The best change. Yes, he got an Artificer armor for a 2+ armor save, but him just getting AP2 all the time is the best change that they could have.
Well, it makes
him
him par with a lot of, because that was one of his biggest weaknesses, is he's hitting you with an AP3 rending weapon. Well, if you don't roll those 6s, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, most characters have 2+ Artificer armor, and then they're making 2+s, and you're not doing anything to them basically. Yeah. Where now you're threatening every other character out there in the army or in the game. So
I always kind of understood why they gave him a 3+ armor save. He's got a psychic power that's chosen for him as precognition that gives him rerolls to hits, wounds, and saves. So it can be kind of trollish if you've got a 2+ rerollable save. So I always kind of understood why he had a 3+ armor save and not a 2+ one. Looks like they've kind of caved and just said, whatever. But if you really consider how Repressed Psyker works, the chances that you get your psychic power off in a game are, you might have it go off like 2 or 3 turns.
So right now, let's go through Repressed Psyker since we're talking about it. So the controller player may not use more than 2 warp charges. So how much is precognition?
It costs 1.
It costs 1. Okay,
but so you can only roll 2 dice to
2
try and
dice.
cast it.
So you need a 4+.
And you need a 4+.
So technically, you should be getting it quite a bit.
You'll probably, in a 6-turn game, you'll probably fail once or twice.
Okay, so
fail, like outright fail to cast it.
But that means you're re-rolling your saves.
You would re-roll your hits, wounds, and saves.
Right.
And that's great. But then also consider that he's only allowed to roll 2 dice. So the ideal situation for me, for generating warp charge dice, is to roll a 1. And I take my level 1 and my 1 pool dice and roll 2 dice. And I've only given you 1 dice to use to try and stop me. The more dice I roll, the more dice you have to try and stop me. So it's probably likely that you'll fail once or twice a game, and your opponent might stop you once a game. So you'll probably have it like 3 turns a game. And then are those the turns that you need it? Is it the turns that he's in combat, in a challenge with somebody needing those rerolls to hit, wound, and his saves?
Yep. And rerolls to an Iron Halo are still amazing, right? Irrelevant.
Absolutely.
If the enemy has 2... like AP2, like 4+ rerollable is awesome. So,
but there's no way to know if it's going to be those critical turns where you get your psychic power to go off, or if it's one of those turns where you end up you got him in combat and you got unlucky and didn't cast your power, or your opponent got lucky and stopped it from going off. Because you really don't get to roll too many dice to try and pull it off. So
that's right. So you've got the Master of Atramentar.
Yeah, so this will help with your reliability of deep striking those Terminator squads. Any Terminator squads, Terminator Command squads, or Contecar Terminator squads, deep strike within 6 inches of Savitar don't scatter.
Which is awesome.
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So if you have him on the board, you don't have to fear that. You just come down and you're there.
Yeah.
Right? Dirty Fighter?
Yeah, so this is his instant death and challenges special rule, kind of like Corswain and Sigismund, right? Yeah. All those guys who are considered some of the best Astartes duelists in the legions. He doesn't fight fair. So
well, this makes him extremely dangerous, right? Because if you consider this, like he's got 7 initiative in a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? Potentially 8. What does he have 8?
In the Terror Assault Rite of War, under the conditions of night fighting.
Right, so early on he could have 8, but 7, which is still higher than majority of other characters out there. Yeah. And then he's got instant death in that challenge.
He's got weapon skill 7.
Weapon skill 7. He's probably hitting on 3s, maybe 4s.
And if he's in a combat with a unit that's outnumbering them...
That's right, he's got +1 to both. Yeah. And then Repressed Psyker, if you get that off, like he could be extremely dangerous. Like you don't really want to go one-on-one against him with your character. Yeah. There's a potential it's a fair fight, but there's a potential that it's not a fair fight and you're going to lose. So personally, if I had a choice, I would shoot this guy off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm so thrilled about the change. I think really all that was needed was to give him the AP2 weapon. The 2+ armor save is gravy for me, and I'm more than happy to pay the extra 35 points. And the best thing is that they decided that it's still going to be a chain glaive, so the model doesn't have to change at all. He's in Artificer armor. He doesn't switch to Terminator armor. He still has a chain glaive, so you don't have to do anything with your existing model. He's perfect as he is, and you can, and I think 210 points is a fair price to pay for Sevatar now, and he is definitely, without a doubt, one of the best characters out there now.
Yep. And I mean, he has a negative with the repressed ability that if you do fail psychic test or you do Perils of the Warp, you have to take it at a leadership 7, but you're only ever rolling 2 dice, so the chances of you rolling 2 6s are pretty low. So I mean, right now, he's really good.
He's very good. Yeah.
The other characters?
Yeah, so the
Flamemaster and the Charon.
Yeah, Flamemaster hasn't changed at all. So he's the same from when you guys did the review for Night Lords before. Basically, this guy's a Primus Medicae character in power armor that also has Fearless. So that's nice. You can attach him to a squad, get Fearless, and get Feel No Pain out of him. He can't be your Warlord, but you guys covered that. And there's no changes here to this guy. At least not that I saw. I'm pretty sure. So next is Charon Ophion. And again, this guy hasn't changed at all either. Worth noting, too, here that these guys both have power armor. And like Sevatar did before, only have power armor. All of the Night Lords characters only had power armor. So I always kind of felt like that was something that I'd like to see changed, and they did that when they introduced Nakrithol, and now that changes to Sevatars with, you get some characters that get some 2+ armor saves.
That's right. We're not going to go through these. If you guys want to, go back and check out the other.
Yeah, there's no changes there for those guys.
Maybe what I'll do is I can even add those to this one if you want. There'll be little tags there, and I'll add them, and you can listen to this as well. So
yeah. So last, but certainly not least, we have
Conrad
Kurz. And I am sad to say that there are no changes to Conrad either, except for some cool new artwork in the book.
Well, but I want to talk about him, right? Because I didn't have an opportunity to do it, so I do want to talk about him. I mean, he's 435 points, so he's one of he's a lower priced Primarch.
I wouldn't call him a lower priced Primarch.
Lower middle. How's that?
I think he's pretty expensive.
Really? Okay. So 8 weapon skill, 7 initiative. He's got 5 attacks, and of course 2 weapons, right? So he does get +1 attack.
Paired weapon, so he's got +1 attack. It's not included in his profile.
That's right. So I mean, you look at the abilities he has. He has Frag Grenade, Shrouded, Stealth, so he always has 4+ cover, which I mean is good and bad. I mean, he does have 4+ invulnerable, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So the the cover, it only gets useful once you're actually in something. But let's say you're in woods, right?
Well, he's got a 4+ cover
ruin.
save out in the open.
That's right. So a 4+ cover save in the open, but when that really applies is if you're in a ruin, you have a 2+ cover save. So if you're getting, or even behind something, right? Like you're sitting in a unit or behind a unit, you're 2+ cover, right? So unless you're getting hit with things that ignore cover, you're basically, I want to say, invincible, right? Because like 2+ armor, 2+ cover makes it so that there's not many things out there that can remove you easily at all.
Yeah, it is great, and it's nice because those rules get conferred to any unit that he joins. So
that's true too, right?
Passes that on, and when you consider that Night Lords gain 5+ cover in the open on turn 1, any unit that's attached to Conrad will have a 2+ cover save.
That's right. So if you run big Terror Squad or Raptor Squad, I'm thinking, or Terror Assault Squad, I guess. But Raptor
I don't
Squad,
think you can join them because they're infiltrators. So.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But either way, that's a really nice rule. Definitely needs to be used, right? Like you have to make sure that you're using it. But he's kind of like that lone character, right? Like even in fluff and stuff, you don't.
Conrad's really very good at harassing your opponent's backline, going after their scoring units and jumping out of combats that he doesn't want to be in, and killing those units that are going to win your opponent the game, because of objectives or whatever.
So the one thing that like the Sire Night Lords, right? Like all units when he's in the board, all units that cause fear now impose a -1 penalty.
Yeah, so that's it's nice that they've given you the ability to get fear with your raptors now.
Yeah.
But your terror squads, your characters, your raptors, they're all causing fear at -1.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that because there's a lot of things in the game currently that don't care about fear.
Yeah, like Mechanicum, Talons of the Emperor, I think are fearless. I'm not sure. I might be wrong.
Yeah, but there are legions, entire legions like Death Guard and Salamanders that don't care about fear.
Yeah,
there are legions like Word Bearers and now Dark Angels, if you're including the line,
that have
very reliable leadership tests, and same with Ultramarines too. I think they take fear at like unmodified leadership 10. So you have chaplains, which are very common, Centurion, you have heralds, which now have a fearless banner, you have command squads, which have fearless banners. There's a lot of fearless units in an era of the game where fear, and they shall know no fear, didn't exist. So just getting fear and a modifier to their fear test, it kind of feels like the units that it's gonna affect, you probably didn't need to have them fail a fear test in the first place.
I mean, the King of Terrors, of course, is good again, but again suffers from the same potential, like non-usefulness, I guess.
Yeah. There's no changes to Conrad, and if there was a change to Conrad, I would have liked to see the King of Terrors
be a little bit more,
maybe affect units that are fearless. You recall in like Warhammer Fantasy how there used to be 2 rules. There was a fear there was fear and there was terror. Well, this guy's the King of Terrors, and terror used to work in Warhammer Fantasy. It would cause fear in units that caused fear. So like that would have been kind of cool. Like even his brothers were like, they knew he was crazy and they didn't really want to mess with him. He would still cause fear in fearless units or something like that. Maybe. I thought, that would have been...
I mean, maybe a little too good, because fear, like Weapon Skill 1 is really good. But I see what you're saying, right? Maybe if they're not, we talk about that, like, stages and steps of things. And I've kind of mentioned that with other things as well. Like, rather than it having, like, an on-off switch where you either cause fear, or you either can take fear, or you're fearless. Or, like, Haywire, where it's 2+ or nothing, or something like that, where you might have stages, like Poison, right? Or Feel No Pain, where there's different steps. So maybe fear is like a modifier, right? Where some, like the fearless units don't take a modifier, or but other units might be less fearless or something like that. I don't know. It's always nice to see things like that as opposed to like just a black and white. You're either fearless, and then you ignore all the special rules the fear units give, even if they're pretty cool rules that might apply, fluff wise. So But yeah, again, Conrad's... I think Conrad's good. He's definitely not your top tier
No, and
Primarch.
that's where we get back into that points cost and how I feel like it's expensive. Just because, you know, he doesn't provide a lot of utility to his Legion. You know, giving them a -1 to fear test that they cause, or just providing them with fear, is like, it's kind of mediocre. And he also always has night fighting, but if you're running Terror Assault, you also get that now automatically as well. So that kind of cuts his utility a little bit as well. And he's just not really a character that you can take and fight other Primarchs with.
Well, and then there's also the other two. There's the other two rites of war that you can't run him with. So the one that you can ride him with, this rule doesn't apply, right? So it's interesting how they did that. But you're right. I mean, honestly, though, like, he can kill a lot of other Primarchs, but he's about middle of the range, right? Like, he's not top. Like, you know, there's lots of, like, Khan and Sanguinus and Russ and Lion and Horus and Magnus and Wogar. And I think I've just spotted off half right there that he technically should not be able to beat, right? And then there's those iffy ones. Well, not even Gilliman, because I think Gilliman still beats him.
Well, we did that one.
That's right.
You guys would call that one if you remember watching that one. Yeah, Gilliman beat Conrad, and I think just reading the fluff, it doesn't feel like those kind of rules are kind of represented in like how good or how like terrifying he could be in combat to handle. You know, he gets run through by the lion before they duel each other on Salguasa.
Well, okay,
and then it takes two of the lion's captains to pull Conrad off of the line before he absolutely murders him.
So let's talk about so it's interesting because you talk about the fluff. So we're gonna have some spoilers now from the books, and I don't know if Theo's actually read all of them, but so yes, so there's the part where the lion I don't know what the hell the lion was thinking. Like, you stab Kurz, why not just behead him or cut him in half right there? Instead, he goes in to talk to him first about it. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, the lion's technically honorable, right? So he
just ran through his brother before fighting a duel with him.
Does the one smart thing that anybody should ever do. Like, you look at, like, all the Primarchs all the time have this guilt-ridden thing about killing each other. Even, like, Fulgrim is constantly haunted by killing Ferris, and yet the lion, like, does it. He's like, yes, I've committed to this. Kurz dies right now. And then, instead of finishing him, he decides to proceed to have this conversation with him and gloat, giving Kurz just enough time to basically push him off and start fighting him. Like, it makes no sense. But anyways, so that happens, and yes, so Kurz is insane in that book, right? And then he proceeds to, fight later on.
He fights Gilliman and Sanguinus.
No, but before that, he fights what's his name? Salamander Primarch. Why can't I think of it?
Oh, Vulcan.
Vulcan, yeah, and beats him like multiple times. Vulcan goes insane, doesn't know who he is, still fights Kurz on McCrag or Ultramar?
I'm not sure.
Calth? No, I don't remember which one it is. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But he fights him, and he beats him. So he kills Vulcan a bunch of times, and then there's a scene where he fights Gilliman and the lion at the same time.
Was it the lion? I thought it was Sanguinus.
No, it was a lion. Okay. They're in a church that he rigged with crack grenades.
Wasn't it there also both of their first captains as well?
I don't know. I think they were somewhere else. I'm not sure. But I know he fights both of them and holds them off both at the same time. And almost kills them, actually. But I mean, we won't go through that.
That's the sort of stuff that I'm talking about that I really wish that you kind of saw in the
You definitely don't, because, I mean, you talk about like, Gilliman.
He absolutely cannot do that in the way that his rules currently are. And there was no changes.
He can be Dorn.
Probably, but there's no changes in here, and that's something I was a little bit disappointed to see in this book. So
that said, though, if you actually continue reading those books, the lion actually goes on a hunt against Kurz, right? And then they do meet again afterwards, and it's a very different battle. And I think that exemplifies or like really shows how the lion learns from, and that's why the lion's so good, because yes, he definitely made a fatal mistake and almost died, against Kurz the first time. But when he actually intended to hunt him down, he succeeded, because that's what he does. Like, that's what the lion does, right? So that was really interesting to see that last fight when they actually meet again, and he brings them down to justice, and they have a trial. Him, Sanguinus, and Gilliman have a trial against Kurz. So
Right.
definitely interesting books. Definitely fun to read. Love Kurz as a character. Like, he's just, again,
he's my favorite Primarch. Absolutely my 100% favorite. I wish that we had seen some changes for him, but all things considered, there's a lot more changes made to the Night Lords in this book than I ever expected, and like, overall, I'm very, very happy with everything that they did change. Even despite nothing happening with Kurz, he's still fantastic, and he can still really.
You have to use him right.
Yeah, you have to use him right. He
Yep.
can be very effective still if you use
That's
him
right.
properly.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again.